Imagine waking up in England in the spring of 1066. The air is cold, the ground is damp, and your first thought isn't about kings or crowns. It's about whether the rain will hold off long enough to sow your barley. Your hands are cracked and calloused. You've worked this strip of land since you were old enough to carry a hoe. It belonged to your father and his father before him. Not that you own it, not really. The land belongs to your lord, and you belong to the land. Your village is small, maybe 40 souls, a handful of families clustered around a timber hall where the local thane holds court. He's not a bad man, your thane. He settles disputes fairly, keeps the peace, and doesn't take more than he's owed. There's a church, built of stone if you're lucky, wood if you're not, a mill by the stream, a few pigs rooting through the mud. This is your entire world, and you know every inch of it. Inside your home, the fire never goes out. It sits in the center of the room, filling the space with smoke that drifts lazily through a hole in the roof. Your wife is already up, grinding grain with a hand quern. The children sleep on straw pallets against the wall. Breakfast, if you can call it that, is yesterday's bread soaked in ale. Your days follow the rhythm of the seasons. In spring you plough and sow. In summer you weed and pray. In autumn you harvest and give thanks. In winter you mend tools, patch the roof, and try not to starve. 3 days a week you work your Lord's fields before you can touch your own. The church is the center of everything. You go on Sundays, holy days, feast days. The priest speaks in Latin, which you don't understand, but you know the rituals by heart. You pay your tithe. 1/10 of everything you grow goes to the church. It hurts, but you don't question it. God's share comes before yours. Once or twice a year, you walk to the nearest market town. It takes most of a day. The noise is overwhelming. Traders shouting, livestock bleating, the smell of leather and fresh bread, and something rotting in the gutter. You sell what little surplus you have and buy salt, maybe an iron tool, maybe a length of cloth your wife has been asking about. You've heard of the king, of course. Edward, they call him, the Confessor. A pious man, they say, more monk than monarch. He sits in his great hall in London, a city you will never see. His decisions shape your life in ways you'll never fully understand. And then, in January of this year, Edward dies. The news reaches your village days later, carried by a travelling merchant. The king is dead. You cross yourself and wonder what it means. Probably nothing, you think. Kings come and kings go. The barley still needs sowing. But this time is different. Harold Godwinson takes the crown almost before Edward's body is cold. He's a powerful earl, a warrior, and the Witan has chosen him. But across the sea 2 other men believe the throne belongs to them. To the south in Normandy, there's William, a duke with a claim and an appetite. He says Edward promised him the crown years ago, and that Harold swore an oath to support him. To the north, there's Harald Hardrada, king of Norway, a giant of a man with a Viking's hunger for conquest. In April, a strange light appears in the sky, a star with a tail, brighter than anything you've ever seen. It hangs there for weeks, visible even at dusk. The old women in the village say it's an omen. Something terrible is coming. The priest says it's a sign from God, though he won't say what kind. You laugh it off during the day, but at night, lying awake while the light bleeds through the cracks in your roof, you can't stop thinking about it. Your wife asks if it means the end of the world. You tell her not to be foolish, but you don't sound convincing, even to yourself. By summer, the rumours are impossible to ignore. William is building ships, hundreds of them. Harold calls up the Fyrd, the militia of ordinary men. Your lord passes the word down. Every able-bodied man must be ready. You've never held a sword, but you know how to swing an axe. You spend weeks standing on the southern coast, watching the horizon, waiting. The wind blows from the wrong direction, and William's fleet cannot sail. Days turn to weeks. The harvest is rotting in your fields back home. Your wife is doing the work of 2 people. You're eating through your supplies. By September, Harold has no choice. The Fyrd is exhausted, the food is gone, and the harvest cannot wait any longer. He sends you home. You walk back to your village, bone-tired, hoping the worst is over. It isn't. Word comes from the north like a thunderclap. Harald Hardrada has landed with a massive Norwegian fleet. 300 ships, they say. He's burning his way through Yorkshire. Harold turns his army around and marches north at a speed that will become legend. At Stamford Bridge, Harold smashes the Norwegian army. The story goes that a single Viking held the bridge alone, cutting down man after man, until an English soldier floated beneath on a barrel and stabbed him from below. Hardrada is killed. Of the 300 ships that brought the Norwegians, only 24 are needed to carry the survivors home. The Viking threat is finished in a single afternoon. Your village celebrates. Maybe the omen was wrong. Maybe the worst really is over now. 3 days later, a rider comes through. William has landed. While Harold was fighting in the north, the wind changed. The Norman fleet crossed the channel and landed at Pevensey on the southern coast. Harold's army is already marching south again. And this time, the call goes out once more. Every man who can fight. Your wife doesn't say much when you tell her. She packs bread and dried meat into a sack. She hands you your father's axe. Your youngest clings to her leg and cries. You kneel down, ruffle his hair, and tell him you'll be back before the first frost. You both know you might be lying. The march south is brutal. Harold's men have already walked the length of England and fought a battle. Now they're doing it again. You join the stream of men heading toward London. Farmers like you mostly, blacksmiths, potters, the baker's son. Men who know nothing of war, except what their grandfathers told them. You make camp near a place called Senlac Hill, about 6 miles from the coast. The night before the battle, you sit by a fire and sharpen your axe. Someone is singing an old song. Someone else is praying. A man you don't know offers you a drink from his flask. You take it. You don't sleep. None of you do. When dawn comes on October the 14th, the mist sits heavy on the ground. You take your place in the shield wall on the ridge. Below you in the valley, you can hear them before you see them. Thousands of men, horses, the clank of armor. The Normans are here. Your shield is heavy. The man next to you is breathing hard. You can smell sweat and fear and damp wool. Someone shouts that Harold is behind you, under his banner of the fighting man. You grip your axe and wait. The ground begins to tremble. And then it begins. The Battle of Hastings, October the 14th, 1066. It will last the entire day, from morning until dusk. 2 armies, perhaps 15,000 men in total, fighting for the future of England on a muddy hillside in Sussex. William sends his archers first. Thousands of arrows arc into the sky and rain down on the shield wall. Most of them thud into wood and leather. The wall holds. The Normans send their infantry up the hill. They crash against the shields and are thrown back. Again and again. The shield wall is the English way of war. Stand shoulder to shoulder. Lock your shields and let the enemy break against you like waves against a cliff. And it works. For hours, the Normans cannot break through. The ridge is too steep. The shield's too tight. The axe is too deadly. Men you grew up with are fighting like demons. The blacksmith's son splits a Norman helmet clean in two. The miller takes an arrow in the arm and keeps fighting. The ridge is slick with blood and mud, and the English are holding. Then something shifts. A group of Normans on the left flank breaks and runs. A rumour sweeps through their army. William is dead. For a moment, the whole Norman line wavers. And this is where it goes wrong. Some of the English, seeing the Normans flee, break ranks and chase them down the hill. It's a fatal mistake. Whether the retreat was real or a trap, the result is the same. The men who leave the shield wall are cut down in the open by Norman cavalry. William is not dead. He lifts his helmet so his men can see his face and rallies them. The Normans regroup and attack again. Now the shield wall has gaps. The line is thinner. The men who chased are gone. The afternoon grinds on. Wave after wave of cavalry, infantry, and arrows. The English fight with everything they have. Axes split shields. Swords find gaps in armor. Men fall on both sides. But the English are being worn down. They have no reserves, no cavalry of their own. Just the wall. And the wall is crumbling. As evening falls, the Norman archers change their angle, firing high so the arrows drop almost vertically into the English ranks. One of those arrows finds Harold. The accounts differ on exactly how he dies. Some say the arrow struck his eye. Others say he was cut down by Norman knights. Either way, the King of England falls. With Harold dead, the English army shatters. The housecarls, his elite bodyguard, fight to the last man around his body. But the rest begin to flee into the gathering darkness. The battle is over. William has won. By nightfall, the hillside is carpeted with the dead. Thousands of English and Norman soldiers lie tangled together in the mud. William orders his tent pitched on the battlefield itself. He eats his dinner among the corpses. England belongs to him now. He just has to take it. The morning after, women from the nearby villages come to search for their dead. They pick through the bodies, turning faces toward the light, looking for husbands and sons. Some find what they're looking for. Most do not. Now imagine you survived. Maybe you ran when the shield wall broke. Maybe you never made it to the battle at all, turned back by injury or illness. Either way, you've come home. But home is about to change beyond recognition. On Christmas Day 1066, William is crowned King of England in Westminster Abbey. The ceremony goes badly. When the congregation shouts its approval, as is custom, the Norman soldiers outside mistake the noise for an uprising and start setting fire to nearby buildings. Inside the abbey, smoke drifts through the windows as a crown is placed on William's head. The English congregation flees in panic. It's a fitting start to the new order. Everything begins with fire. At first, the changes come slowly to your village. A new lord arrives. He's Norman. He doesn't speak your language, and and he doesn't try to learn it. He brings his own men, his own servants, his own priest. Your old Thane, the one whose family had held this land for generations, is simply gone, dispossessed, replaced. The Normans build castles, not the stone fortresses that will come later, but motte and bailey structures, a mound of earth, a wooden tower on top, a fenced enclosure around the base. They go up fast. You might be ordered to help build one. Your labor, which once went to ploughing fields, now goes to constructing the instruments of your own control. The new lord speaks French. His household speaks French. The language of power, of law, of the court is now French. Your English becomes the tongue of peasants, of the fields, of the kitchen. Words you've used your whole life suddenly mark you as inferior. You are a stranger in your own country. And then comes the worst of it. In the north, the English rebel. They rise up against the Normans, killing the new Earl of Northumbria. William's response is savage beyond anything England has ever seen. The harrying of the north. William's army sweeps through Yorkshire and beyond, burning everything. Villages, crops, livestock, tools. Anything that could sustain life is destroyed. The aim is not just to punish, it's to make the land itself uninhabitable, to ensure that no rebellion can ever be fed or sheltered again. The chronicles say that for 9 years afterwards, the land between York and Durham lies empty. 100,000 people die, perhaps more, not from battle, but from starvation, from the cold, from disease that follows famine, as surely as winter follows autumn. Even if your village is in the south, far from the worst of it, you hear the stories. Refugees drift down from the north, hollow-eyed and starving. Entire communities simply erased. You take in a family from York. They have nothing. They don't even speak for the first week. When the woman finally talks, she describes things you can't unhear. In 1085, William orders something unprecedented. A survey of the entire kingdom. Every estate, every village, every field, every cow, every pig. His men go door to door, recording everything in meticulous detail. What do you own? What is it worth? How much tax can you pay? Who held this land before the conquest? The questions are relentless. Nothing is too small to count. The English call it the Domesday Book, because like the Last Judgment, there is no appeal and nowhere to hide. Your village appears in its pages, your strip of land, your 2 oxen, your half share of a plough. Everything you are, reduced to an entry in a Norman ledger. It's efficient, it's thorough, and it's terrifying. Because it means they know exactly what you have, and they can take exactly as much as they want. The old wooden church in your village is torn down. In its place, the Normans build in stone, bigger, grander, heavier. The same God, they tell you, the same faith. But the priest now answers to a Norman bishop, and the services feel different. The music changes, the architecture changes. Even the shape of your worship is no longer your own. Across England, the Normans build on a scale the English have never seen. Cathedrals, abbeys, castles, great towers of stone that announce, in a language even the illiterate can read, that the old world is finished. Every massive wall, every soaring arch says the same thing. We are here. We are staying. We are in charge. You adapt because you have no choice. You learn the words you need to deal with the new lord. You pay your new taxes, which are heavier than the old ones. You follow the new laws, which are harsher than anything you've known. The forest, where you used to hunt rabbits and gather firewood freely, is now the king's forest. If you kill a deer, they can blind you. If you cut down a tree without permission, you lose a hand. The land that fed your family for generations now exists to provide sport for Norman nobles. But something survives. In the taverns, in the fields, in the homes where no Norman ear can hear. You speak English. You tell the old stories. You remember the names of the thanes who once held this land. You grumble about the new lords and their strange ways and their love of ceremony. Years pass. You grow old. Your children grow up in a world where Norman rule is simply how things are. They don't remember what came before. You remember hunting in the woods without fear. You remember a time when the language of power was the same language you spoke to your children. You remember what it was like before the world changed. And sometimes by the fire, you try to tell them. But they look at you the way children always look at old men, telling stories about the past, with love, but without understanding. Even the Normans tell the story. They commission a great tapestry, 70 meters of embroidered cloth, showing their version of events. Harold's broken oath, William's righteous invasion, the arrow in the eye. It's propaganda stitched in wool, but it survives. And buried in its images, if you look carefully, you can see the ordinary people too. The farmers, the builders, the women watching ships sail away. They're small figures in someone else's story, but they were there. Nearly 1,000 years later, the villages are still there. The fields still follow boundaries that were old in 1066. The language you spoke didn't die. It merged and grew and became something new. English absorbed French, Latin, Norse, and carried them all forward. The very words we use today, this strange, beautiful hybrid tongue, are proof that the ordinary people of 1066 left their mark. History remembers the kings. It remembers William and Harold and the arrow and the oath. But kingdoms are built on the backs of people whose names were never written down. People who woke up, were at the land, fed their families, and endured whatever the powerful threw at them. Their story is England's story, and it begins, as all stories do, with someone waking up on an ordinary morning, not knowing that the world is about to change.